Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of our brand new podcast, the Spectrum Podcast. We've actually started this podcast up because in the last podcast we only covered politics, but we want to cover a lot more doing this show. And obviously, I'm joined by Alan and from Direct Democracy, and I'm joined by John Lawrence. Now, everyone know that me and John Lawrence have worked together in the past. I've attended his shows. But I thought, what about if we could bring all our resources, all the people that we know, to one show? And we've all got unique perspectives. We don't all agree on everything. Obviously, I'm always going to be the best looking, even if these two would deny it, right? But nonetheless, sometimes you have to allow people to have their own opinions, right? So, Alan, how you been, mate? Welcome to the show. It's been ages, haven't it? And then we'll go over to John.
Yeah, as for different reasons, obviously, we've had problems getting broadcasts out. It's like having all the Doctor Who's in the same place. I like to think of it like that.
Definitely.
um, so I don't know which one I am. Yeah, no, I'm raring to go for the new year. We've got a Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times," and I think that's something that we can all boast about at the moment. So bring it on.
Definitely. John?
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. John Lawrence here, run my own political party, and looking forward to interviewing some guests over the next few weeks. But it looks like I'm getting interviewed tonight, guys.
Yep, yep. We promise not to go too hard on you. I know we're your friend, but we have to ask awkward questions, mate. After now, you're fine. Don't worry. We're not going to do any awkward questions. Right. So, getting a little bit serious. We all know that you're from Oldham. We know your political background, but for those who don't, could you tell them a little bit about yourself, how you got involved, why you started up your own political party? I won't ask too many questions at the same time because Alan's told me I do a bit too much of that, and I just did. But tell us, how did you start in politics? What got you interested in politics, John?
Well, I didn't really become interested until about 2010, but I'd already seen a lot of failings in Oldham over the years. There's plenty of articles online you can look at and stuff like that. And even 2010, there was issues with grooming in Oldham that was silenced. And like the grooming scandal in Oldham really goes back to before the 2000s, well, early 90s, late 80s. I was living in Bradford for a few years. When I come back, I wanted to get voting, looked into UKIP, interviewed the local representative when he come round, did some leafleting for him. And really, so from about 2010, I was headed towards like being political. And, you know, I never thought that I'd just be delivering leaflets. I knew that I would be standing as a candidate eventually. And then after some Activision and like after the Manchester Arena bombing, it became more evident that we needed a change in political class. And when you look at the board now, there's a lot of that across the ways and that. So we started our own party with Patrick McGuinness, and we went on the our first like thing was exit the 1951 Refugee Convention. We did a banner drops with that. And I started the party with and I'm running in local politics now, and I think I can make a change. We need a different kind of political class. The people who are in now, they're not good. They're not good for individual, not good for our country. And you know, I urge everyone to vote and get into local politics. And obviously, I know Oldham well, and there's been a couple of independent groups that have done really well in Oldham. And at the moment, we've got 19 independents out of 60 councillors, which is unheard of, really, in Oldham. And the political scene's changing. So that's why I got involved, and that's why I started up my own party.
Okay, fantastic. So, what does the National Housing Party stand for? Like, what are your principles? What are your goals? Where are you trying to head?
Well, obviously, in the name housing, that's got
Yeah.
the biggest issue of the day. We want British citizens housed before anyone else. At the moment, asylum seekers, refugees, they get not saying they get housed first, but they get guided that way. And we have to sacrifice a lot for these people, and it's affecting British citizens in the UK. We have about between 1 and 2 million people waiting for housing, decent housing, families, single people. Homelessness has gone up as well. And as you know, I do a lot with veterans, and veterans' homelessness and housing situation is crap. So we need to sort it out. So that's what we based our party on, is housing.
Fantastic. Yeah. So when it comes down to the grooming gang scandal, what would you do? Because obviously you're going to be standing as a candidate, right? What would you do to try to tackle the problem as a councillor if you were elected? If anyone watched this in Oldham, what do you think should happen? Do you think there needs to be another inquiry? Or do you think at the end of the day, we need to go about this in a sensible manner? Obviously, a lot of people like Benabib, for example, has said, we don't actually need another inquiry. Why do we need another inquiry when it will take ages? The police will use it as a reason not to actually go after the perpetrators. What would you do as John Lawrence, as a councillor, if you are lucky enough to get elected? Would you just start an entire branch of the police force to go after these people? What do you think, John?
Well, I want accountability, and I just want to he said grooming gangs up here, but that is an issue. But the issue before that was people like Cyril Smith, who groomed in Rochdale and groomed lads from Oldham and North Manchester. Yeah. And people within the council knew what was going on. Nothing ever got done till after he died. But then people still were in the political scene. Richard Barnell, he was an ex-Labour leader. He lied to an inquiry saying he didn't know nothing that abuse was going on in these homes, but the inquiry found him guilty. You know, he lost his Labour leadership job, but he stayed within the political scene and went working for Joe Anderson in Liverpool when 100 million went missing. So there's no accountability. No one's ever been held to account. So how can I say that I want Pakistanis locking up when we don't lock up our own councillors and politicians? That's what we're fighting for, that accountability. And you know, we know there's failings of the police, political correctness, too afraid to be this, that and the other, but you know, I want people locking up. There's people who are guilty, the police know there's evidence against these people, they should be arrested and charged. Now, I'm not saying they need to be undrawn and quartered, but if you're gonna show people that you will arrest them when they fail our children, whether they be social services, counsellors, police, you know, then that is a good sign to show other people that you can't do this rubbish on us. You know, and it's never been done. No one's ever been arrested. So, you know, the perpetrators are just going to continue to do the acts. So it's ridiculous. But I've got to say, like I said, it's not so much the rape gang thing up here. It's Cyril Smith, No View, Cambridge House. There was a dozen homes in Rochdale that he picked young lads from and abused them, and nothing's ever been done and no one's held to account. But get that team together, go out, arrest people and start putting them through the judicial process.
Do you want to explain who Cyril Smith is? There might be people who don't know his story.
Yeah, of course.
So Cyril Smith is an ex-Liberal Democrat member of Parliament for Rochdale, and he built up his rankings in the 70s and 80s to get into the political scene, and ended up becoming an MP, given loads of honours for all sorts of things. But when he died, it came to light that he'd abused kids. But this evidence was out before that, but there was never no accountability. I talked to one of the victims, and he said when his family tried to say something, they got a knock on the door by the men in black in the UK and said, listen, say anything, you're going to lose your house, you'll lose your job, you'll be jailed. Just threatened them like that. And it went on for years, and it wasn't until he died that like the process came of people coming out and then people taking note. But you know, who's guilty? Everyone's guilty. The media, other politicians, Liberal Democrats, the Labour Party, the Tories. They all knew. Everyone knew, but nobody did nothing. Cyril Smith, what the worst monster of all.
Definitely.
Am I right in thinking he was elected as Labour MP and then switched to Liberal Democrat?
I think you're right there. Yeah. He first started off in the Labour scene, came up, got high ranking, then switched to Liberal Democrats. He might have been a serving Labour MP at the time, but yeah, you are right, Alan. Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about obviously what's gone on, and it's quite serious stuff. Now, you just spoken about that, but to go back to the Pakistani problem inside of Rochdale, Rotherham, and many other places like Oldham, do you think this is, as a party leader, and obviously people will be able to tell that you're mixed race, so obviously people will know that your father come over here during Windrush and everything and came over here to work and be part of British society and you love this country. Do you think this is a breakdown of multiculturalism, what the result of the multicultural experiment has been?
Yeah, definitely. It's part of it. I'm not going to say it's all to do with that, but it is part of it. And this is what we get through. And multiculturalism has never worked anywhere. And when we get people in, especially the kind of numbers we're getting in now, no one's going to integrate. And integration is something I go on about a lot, Marcus. I always talk about integration. We did have it in the past, but it's just ridiculous now. But it's definitely a cultural problem. But if the police wouldn't have been politically correct, if they'd arrested people, we just wouldn't be in this mess now. And these people who are committing these crimes would never have committed the crimes because they knew that they were going to get jailed, but they didn't. They knew that they'd get away with it. They knew that the councillors, they started off on Indians first, didn't they? The Sikhs. That's who they started grooming first. But then as they developed and came into England, they found that another fresh source of meat was like the white girl. And then they started on them and specifically kept up with them. But no, and the other thing is there's never... you'll see in the news now that people are asking why families supported these people who've done these crimes and wouldn't speak out against them. That's a big thing in the Pakistani community, and it's a big thing that's been going on years. But no one will say these things. They're only saying it now when there was people years ago saying this. And I've got to say, we all go on about Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk. It was the BNP, led by Nick Griffin, who first demanded an inquiry in 2011 to this grooming thing. It's well documented. And it was these people who were shouting first, and it was just shouted down, branded with politically correct names and thrown into the dust. So it's not a recent thing. It's been going on 50, 60 years.
I would just add to that. It shows where we are as a society when the BNP are the only people who are willing to talk about it, right? I'm glad they did talk about it. It's not my type of party, admittedly. But I fear with this situation, and Alan, if you want to jump in afterwards, mate, I think they're scared of actually revealing who was involved because I think it would shock this country. And I think a lot of politicians and police officers, people inside of the education system who knew, would be going to prison. And I think we probably would have a scandal like this in many generations. It's going to be one of those things, what breaks the camel's back. And you know what? I think the trust within society would be gone, wouldn't it? Because every institution that you're supposed to believe in, the school, the police, social services, they've all played their part in this, haven't they? Alan, if you wanted to jump in on that, mate, or give your thoughts if you had any.
I think it's a problem which is more visible now because obviously we've got lots of different sources of media. I don't know, we shouldn't really be mentioning names and that, but an ex-Labour MP was stung today in one of these stop stings. It's been going on for a long time. I cut off there. I had incoming call. Yeah, and you know, it seems to become a disease, you know, which we really need to deal with, because it has been going on for a long time, and as we found out, you know, we were right about Cyril Smith, by the way, Sir Cyril Smith, of course. I've just checked back. It was a Labour and then a Liberal Democrat, well, Liberal and then a Liberal Democrat. So yeah, this has been going on for a long time. There's a lot of myths and legends around it all, which need to be brought out into the open and dealt with. I think that was a very good question of Marcus's there. If you actually got elected into the local council seats, what kind of difference could you make? I'm not sure, you know, local politics is going to deal with this, and it might be something we've got to tackle nationally. Because it's creeping all over the place. We hear about places like Rochdale and Rotherham, but it's, you know, spreading around, and it hasn't stopped. It's still going on today.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, can I just weigh in? Education is one of the ways that we should look at this. They don't do enough to push this kind of awareness. There is groups, not saying there isn't, and all that lot. They don't get the proper funding. They might be funded for a couple of years and funding disappears. There should be funding for this there all the time for any bloody town in the UK to need to fund these sort of things. It shouldn't be just do it for 2 years. Oh, we haven't got no funding for you now. You know what I mean? But accountability. Remember, there's not. We've had the rape gangs. We've had Lord Ahmed in Rotherham. He was done for buggering a boy, but he already had stalking charges on a woman and stuff like that, and he was left all the way. Then recently, a couple of years ago, Khan, a Conservative member of Parliament in Wakefield, so he got arrested and he was under investigation for buggering, and then they put him on a child safety panel. They put him on a child safety panel when he was under investigation, you know. And how am I supposed to take it that these people know how to do the jobs when they do stuff like that? Lord Janner, in the past, a big Labour lord, and for years people had tried to come forward, and it wasn't until he died that they did anything. You know what I mean? So it's a rot across the political spectrum and right into like multiculturalism and people who are here. It's bad, but you know, if people who are at the bottom, the Pakistani rape gang, see that nothing's being done about the people at the top, then why are they going to stop doing the nasty things?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But yeah, we definitely need to lock people up. But in Rotherham, they did start up something called risky business. And when they finally started to look at the figures in this risky business, they knew they had a problem. No more funding, and then all of a sudden they lost all the documentation, just like that. You know what I mean? So all that information were gone. People within risky business knew what was going on. They were part of it. They were just waiting for the right time. They stopped funding, and then all the documentation went. And you know, like you're thinking, wow. But yeah, that's what I do. I go to schools, mate, and I talk to kids in assembly. I tell them, and when I go on demos and we see young people, I talk to them, mate. I said to this lad here, "Is that your sister? Yeah. Do you look after her? Do you make sure she's okay and all that? Do you talk? You know what I mean? Do you should be looking after her. You should have a good family and stuff like that." But yeah.
Okay, I wanted to go to a less serious topic now, if that's okay with you two. That's quite a very, very serious topic to talk about. So, especially for the first episode we've actually done in a long time. So, when it comes to your party, National Housing Party, in the name it says national, which stands for is short for nationalist. Why would you call yourself a nationalist instead of a populist or a patriot? And what does nationalism mean to you specifically?
Well, I mean, National Housing Party, it just covers all of England. And, I do put myself down as a nationalist, proud of my country. I want what's best for whatever we have here. You can add a load of things on and all the labels, but I'm just going to make it easy that I'm a nationalist. That's it. You know what I mean? Just going to make it easy like that. And, as a nationalist, I believe that we shouldn't be bending the will to other countries and influenced by other countries, directly influenced. And we are. All the UK politicians are influenced by somebody outside of England, and that's not going to work for the best of our country. It just isn't, no matter who these people are. But yeah, and like I said, I've always been proud of my country, Marcus, all the history and stuff like that, and I just want what's best for the UK and everyone who's in the UK.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, like that's just a normal common sense thing, which I think everyone would agree with. Alan, did you want to say something, mate?
No, I was going to say, do you call yourself a unionist then, or a nationalist? Because they're really two different things. I consider myself a unionist. So I think, the Scotland, Ireland and Wales, well, Northern Ireland, is obviously the United Kingdom. But interestingly, I've been getting involved with the Albion Co-op, and that's interesting because the Irish question's sorted with them already, in that Ireland's a complete nation state, and Wales, Scotland, and England would be their own states as well. But it's all part of the Albion, which is the different from a United Kingdom. So yeah, are you a nationalist or a unionist?
You said it right, unionist. Great Britain, union. That's it with me. And what more can I ask for, or what more can we ask for? We're stronger together. We're a group of little individual states or whatever. So I'm proud of the flag. I'm proud of my Union Jack. I really am. And we've got a beautiful country, and I'm actually got a little bit of sliver of Irish in me, so I'm even more mixed than just white and black. You know what I mean? And you know what? I'm just gonna denounce the Irish and throw them away. I'm not gonna do. It's part of the British Isles history and heritage, but I don't like all these nationalists, unionists, socialists. I don't like all these words, Alan. They just put us into boxes. You know what I mean? And when they put us in a certain kind of box, it can push you more that way, and it just does me head in, But yeah, I would say more on a unionist.
So I've been looking into your political party for a very long time. Obviously, I've done shows on some of your political party broadcasts, and one big thing about your party is Christianity. Now, what are the things that you want to bring back about Christianity? Why do you think that's such an important thing for the UK? Because, we could probably all agree on this panel in some way. I know both of you are not religious. I'll make it clear that I am. So, obviously put that out there. But Christianity played a big role in building Western society, didn't it? Why do you want to bring Christianity back? And could you tell us about some of your policies to do with Christianity, John?
Well, I mean, the first thing is community. I'm 57 years old, me, and Christianity has always been a part of my upbringing. Whether, it's going to church for this, that, and the other. I went to Boys Brigade, which was linked to a church, which a lot of Boys Brigades are. Did Sunday school and stuff like that. And, it's part of who we are. And, Christianity was a big factor, in our country and over the years. And we had communities. But now, with that bit lack of faith, there is no communities. People take the mickey out of the church, and Christians are put on the bottom foot and stuff like that. But if we had them kind of communities that we had in the 60s and 70s, we wouldn't be in such a mess now. We wouldn't be, because communities make you strong. And you can see that in the Islamic community. Come on. You can see that in their community. And, we've lost that. you don't have to go pray into the church all the time. But the church isn't just the church where you go pray. It's the old people's knitting place. It's the creche when the kids are off school. It's the the churches do food bank things, and to the local community. So you don't have to be Christian to do any of that. But all that kind of thing is took away from us when we were younger. Between two streets where we lived, the council came and dropped off a like a portable office like unit thing, and supplied us with all pens and paper and writing things, so the kids, in the holidays could go in and write and play. They provided us with like free to the local parks and the swimming baths and all that. None of that's done now. None of that's done. So how we're going to look for doing stuff within the community. And now, like when you go to a creche now, it's just so expensive that you have to pay. But within our street, a few of the adults ran this unit, and we got supplied, but we don't have any money for any of that stuff. So our broken communities, we need faith in them. We do. And I'm not a practicing Christian, but I'd be lying, Marcus, lying through my teeth if that, like, the way I've been brought up and had nothing to do with Christianity. I'd be lying. Because it has, and if we bring that back and try and get some kind of strong community, after these girls who got gang raped wouldn't have got gang raped because they wouldn't have been in Kerr in the first place. It's just an absolute scandal how they broke our communities up. And this Kerr thing is a big thing because these guys were going to the Kerr homes picking the girls up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Christianity, community strength.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you have the moral foundation of a society, you can protect your children. And I think it actually strengthens society. I mean, we've seen the breakdown in education. We've seen the breakdown of marriage that the left actually wants to attack so much. When we actually had fathers in the home, for example, things like this would have never happened. And Christianity was a pillar of actually keeping marriage together and actually children's staying on the straight and narrow. What do you think, Alan? What's your opinion on this? Christianity within its society, what is its place in society for you as someone who is non-religious?
Well, I don't say I'm non-religious. I'm a lapsed Christian, I suppose, for want of a description. But I think we've talked about it on one of the other interviews. Is where I stand is it's not so much about the Christian faith. I think a lot of people have turned away from that with various other scandals that have gone on. The stupid statements which have come out of, the archbishops and things. People are, and also, people are discovering more science and thinking, well, I don't think that's true. That dinosaur bone's been around longer than the Bible says we've been here. So, you start to sort of question things. But what I would say is, I think this country has been a model for Christian values. And I think that is something very different in that you take something like the Ten Commandments. They're a good set of rules to live by. You could go back to natural law, do no harm, and be nice to each other. They're a good set of rules to live to, but the Ten Commandments and adaptations of them, actually you could have quite a happy life. All of us could if we lived by those. And religions that promote, murder and death and things, just because you're a different faith or something, you've got to question if their God is, a benevolent God, and are their values the same as ours? Because if they're not, then they're not really welcome here. That's the problem. That's the question. Where do we draw the line? This country, as I always say, been a role model for the multiculturalism that you mentioned before. But it's not the stuff that's rammed down your throat. Like you've got to celebrate this on that day and things like that. It's the fact that we were an open door to people throughout history. We did go around colonizing places and things, and it was only fair, really, when we gave these places back to the indigenous people as a country. Not me personally. We gave them the option to come and live here if that's what they like, because we'd shared things like law and religion and government, some things like that. A lot of these countries have never seen, and we shared culture. Let's not forget we brought things like tea and potatoes and things back here that were used in other countries. We'd never seen it, and it became stable food for the masses. I think the Commonwealth was one of the best things that ever happened to the planet, if I'm honest with you. And all this fighting and stuff that's going on now isn't, I don't think, what the architects ever wanted. It should be a positive thing. It's been abused, buying bombs to kill people in another country you've never met. There's something wrong there. This is another thing that we need to deal with. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Good point of view, Alan, and all that. I think we all agree. Let us know in the comments what you think. So you've actually put some pressure on the establishment parties in the past, haven't you, John? Even Reform itself. You ran a campaign all over the country about the 1951 Convention Act. Now, I never heard of this act. I don't think most people ever spoke about it, and you pushed it into public consciousness. Could you tell us about that and how you went about that and why you did it, please? Because you even got Khan covering it at one point. London Mayor, didn't you? You annoyed him so much. So tell everyone about that, please.
Pat McGuinness started up, exit the 1951 Refugee Convention, and to come down into a short stab of what it is it's not criminal. It's decriminalized people coming here. When they were criminalized, you could just eject them and send them back to wherever, just like that. But with the 1951, it's decriminalized people who come over on our shores. And it's a big, massive article. You can read the pages, but we have to accept them and accept what they say. So if they want to claim asylum, they've got to go through this process. Without that, we could just turn them round, put them on a boat, and put them back to France, and that'll be it. Nothing can be said. Nothing can be done. That's what it was like in the first place. So Pat started that off, and that we'd not even started our party. We went to Dover. We went to the Blackwall Bridge in London and did a couple of stunts there. I had it out at Manchester at the Conservative conference. I had it out in Manchester. And at the time, nobody was talking about these issues. Even the ECHR were hardly talked about. But because we put it out, other groups started picking it up. Now they all talk about it. But there wasn't, 4 years ago, nobody was talking about it. So that's through us doing that campaign and people asking about it, then looking into it and stuff like that. So that's it simply. It decriminalizes people coming in. You just can't get rid of them, and you've got to process them. So,
Alan,
it's our founding principle. Founding principle.
Fantastic.
I think ideas like that need to be a part of an open debate. And I've said it before, with the referendum on leaving the EU, people criticise it because it polarised people into, remain or leave. But actually, what it did was it focused the population. 34 million people turned out to vote. That's not happened for a long time. Yeah. And there were meetings, there were TV interviews, there were street stalls, and suggestions like John's just made, I think could be really, really important, to contribute to that debate, because popular parties like UKIP at its time and the Brexit Party and Reform now, that's sort of top of their list on any of their leaflets. Immigration, number one, and then people then vote for them. but we don't get anything done. This is the problem with government in this country has been for a long time. You know, the popular things that people want to resolve, and the things that save money as well, you know, just pushed under the carpet. You know, and we focus on the things that we never asked about, like, you know, net zero. You know, let's have a proper debate about that before we make any financial decisions. You know, and it's just right across the whole board. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. Really, is the fact that, you know, these decisions are all made in smoky rooms in the Conservative Club, or, you know, down in the union offices, where really this is about the British people, people in the United Kingdom, and they should be making the choice. So
Oh yeah,
from a
I know
down,
where you're gonna go. I know where you're gonna go, Alan. But the big question that me and Alan want to ask John, and the biggest question of the interview, what's your view on direct democracy? Because now I think it would be a fantastic way to save the UK. I trust the people of this country to make the decisions, because clearly people who are born with a silver spoon shoved up the backside haven't been able to sort out the problems, have they? Now, should we go to referendums and let the people decide? What's your view on the whole direct democracy thing, mate?
I'm for direct democracy. We definitely, and even at a local level, we should be. You know, we have a lot of trouble with like knife crime, and Nick Buckley said it well. He go to an area and he referendum said, "Do you want stop and search, or do you not want stop and search?" If they want stop and search, then fine. If they don't want it, then they're not going to do it. And when crime is still increasing, well, we asked you, you know, you wanted it, and we need to do things like that. But, you know, I agree. Direct democracy is something for the books. When we get rid of all the traitors in power, because they don't want it. They don't want direct democracy. They want to run it themselves, don't they? So even though they might be, oh yeah, you can have it, but they're not going to give it us properly. But yeah, I'll be all for support for direct democracy.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to hold you to account, John. I want to see that policy on your website. I don't want a politician's answer of yes, I support that. I want that on the website. What do you think, Alan? Do you think we can get NHP UK to adopt it as a policy?
It's an interesting question, because there's different models of direct democracy, because different countries have come about that decision. Taiwan, Switzerland, Liechtenstein. There's a whole list of countries, even states of America as well, use it for their local elections. And they've got different things. So we can look at the best bits that work in places. In Switzerland, for example, there's 5 political parties, I think, on the committee of 7 that run the country. And, you know, I've said it before. Can you think of a famous Swiss prime minister? Nobody can, because you don't. It's not about them. It's about the democracy of the people. You know, where this country just seems to be consumed with who is the leader of the Conservative Party right now, and who's the next leader going to be. And to be honest, I'm not really interested. You know, I'd rather find out what's happening in my community. You know, with, like you said, education, the potholes. You know, and that's what we should be focusing. So for a small party, no disrespect, John, you know, I think this is a good way of moving forward. And we've been working with local residents associations, which I think is quite an attractive proposal for the upcoming elections, which I've heard today might actually have been kicked in the long grass. I don't mind that, Mr. Starmer, because it gives us a chance to get a bit more organised. So thank you very much for that one. But we'll see, you know, as these things unfold. But I don't think we should bully anyone to put it in their manifesto. The party should come about that decision on their own merit, using democracy. Now, you know, how are we going to do that? If you're elected to council, how are you going to talk to everyone in your ward? That's the question that we need to sort out, because we need something that's confidential. We were working with a partner called Blockbow, and they had a really attractive model, but it needs correct funding and things like that. But we can't have it with something that could be compromised. So, you know, we have to have a really good solution to this and make sure it works when we start it, because we can't be tweaking it later on and then saying, oh, sorry, you know, there was a problem with that system there. So, you know, we're listening, we want this. And for small parties, this could be the way you get your issues, because you have your party conference and all your people are sitting around talking about things. You then bring it to a poll in the area. Like you said, knife crime, you know, there've been too many deaths lately. We've got a proposal which we want to put forward for a referendum locally. You know, should we reintroduce stop and search? I've been stopped and searched several times. It didn't bother me at all, you know. I actually had,
You look
you know,
a
in the
bit
car.
dodgy, mate. You do look a bit
You know-
dodgy. Do you get what
You know,
I mean?
well, I was younger. I was about your age. You know, when a car pulls up and loads of people jump out and they surround your car. I had one of those times, you know, once, because my car broke down outside a bank in usually High Street in London, and of course the police thought I was doing a robbery on it.
Jeez.
Those are the days when you saw police around, you know.
It's funny you should say about the residents' associations. We've been contacted by a couple in the London area. I had a big phone call of a woman over it, but you know, they've got this residents' association. She's just not being listened to or anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And she said she'd run it for like 15 years, and not like when she started it, they listened to her, but now they just don't listen to her and just do what they want. So we're going to try and support this woman and this residents' association. But no, you know, I think it's good, you know, and local things, even though we're a party, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be just going on about like world politics all the time. Local things, we've got to focus on local things. And, you know, wherever you're running under our banner, you've got to focus on your local area, because no one else is going to do it. The Labour candidate, when he were in, he did a little bit, but he was more bothered about voting for these big changes that Labour wanted to do that have ruined Oldham. You know what I mean? And we should focus more on local politics. But, you know, when I get in, I'm a voice, mate, and they're going to have to listen to me. If they don't, then I'll be doing videos on the subjects that they're not listening to me. And they don't like that. They don't like you doing videos on social media and stuff. And in the past, I've just done one video, mentioned something, and then something's changed the next day, Alan. It's been that quick that the council picks up on change something the next day. And they were doing some alterations in the town centre. And I went up to one of these alterations, and it was a piece of metal. And if you like, it'd be an area, it's next to a bench, and you could easily scuff your ankle on this piece of metal. I did one little video, I put it on Facebook. The next day they changed it and sorted it out. You know what I mean? That's how quick it's up. We just got to speak up. A lot of people are afraid to speak up. I'm not. And, you know, I'll push local things all the time, all the time. But,
I'm curious, John. So when it comes to councillors, you haven't got any elected yet. You've came very close. You have a big vote share in Oldham, and you have other people standing all over the country, right? When you become a successful party, in the sense you have many councillors, and I know you have many people standing across the country, even though Keir Starmer at the moment doesn't want the local elections, which is something we can go on into in a second, will you introduce a party whip to force your candidates to vote a certain way, or will you let them speak their mind? Because we've seen this in other political parties where the leader or the leadership of that political party will force them to vote a certain way in their community, even though that may be not good for their community. What's your opinion on that, John?
No, we haven't no plans to be like that at all or anything, you know. And like when I talk to the other candidates, it's up to them what they want to do in their local area. I don't tell them what to do. But obviously, potholes and roads that Alan said is a massive thing across the UK. They don't look at our roads, they don't sort them out. So, you know, I could expect that in everybody's leaflet in a local area. mine included. When you knock on the door, people go on about housing. It took a couple I know, and they've got 2 children now, but it took them 6 years just to get a 2-bedroom property in the area where she was born. She shouldn't have to move out, you know what I mean? And I knocked on a Pakistani man's door once, and there's 2 families in the house, and the council have said you're not getting a house in Oldham, you have to move outside of Oldham, but he didn't want to move away from his dad, you know what I mean? Because his dad's like a bit older, and this lad would be in the position to looking after his. Oh, he has got to move out of Oldham to get an house. Honestly, it's ridiculous. But local things, we're not going to force anyone to do anything. We just want people to agree with exit 1951 Refugee Convention to end permanent settlement, and a lot of our other policies are up for evolvement. You know what I mean? To evolve, maybe have some things added to them. And stuff like that. We want to evolve our policies. So we'd be quite open for people coming in, talking about the policies, and say, well, we can evolve it by doing this, that, and the other. We're quite good like that. Well, if we ever get that big, I don't think I'd be like the Labour Party. I really don't. I really don't.
Fantastic.
As long as I'm not corrupted. As long as I'm not corrupted, I won't be like them. As long as I'm not corrupted.
Right, okay. That's a maybe. I may come corrupted further down the line. See how much money I get. That's John Lawrence's. Nah, I'm only joking, mate. So when it comes to your party, you have quite strict immigration policies, don't you? Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because you have specific interest in policies, don't you, about immigration with your party that you want to stop.
We don't want to. Yeah, we want to stop all immigration, asylum seekers, refugees. We don't want any more legal immigration. People got issues with the boats. That's not even the issue. The issue is legal immigration. That's what's 10 times more than what the boats are coming. And they're bringing people in who aren't compatible with British values. They're not integrating and stuff like that. We don't want any kind of immigration. And, I'm not being picky. I don't want any Ukrainians, don't want any Germans. I don't want anyone white coming from another country. I don't want anyone from anywhere. That's the complete halt. There's going to be rough times. People say, oh, what about people who bring money into it? So what? There's going to be a bit rough here and there, but we'll end up getting better housing for everyone and getting more control over our country. So, but yeah, complete halt to permanent settlement. You can settle by marriage. There is a clause to settle by marriage. But let's say if you came over here, you married someone, and in a year you split up, that person would be going back home. They would be going back to their country. It's simple as they wouldn't have any state to see you. But yeah, it's not hardcore. It's not hardcore when you think about it, because we're not throwing anybody out, but we're just not accepting anyone else in.
What I would say to that is a lot of people on the left would argue that, although our numbers are going up each year, it's actually a good thing because obviously we're actually not having children as much. Now, I do think your party will have, I haven't read all your policies, but we do need more people having children. But would it actually be so bad if our population actually went down a little bit? I don't actually think it would. Alan, do you want to add to that, buddy? I personally think, yes, there should be policies, but should the immigration happen so much to the point that we're having to replace our, stock every 20, 30 years because it's decreasing just because we became a little bit more liberal, wishy-washy, and no one is having children. And I think part of the problem is because of immigration, people aren't actually having children because they actually can't move out. It's harder to find a job because it's suppressed wages, so people can't afford to have children. So actually stopping it at the source, which is part of the problem, and I'm not saying it's the only problem, I think that is a sensible thing, and I do support your party for doing that, mate. Alan, do you want to say something, mate?
I think it's a great shame that this has become party policy for any party. And really we've got to rewind back just a little bit and see how we got into this mess. and it's that open door immigration. Labour actively went around the world recruiting people to come here, and I've got a friend from Nigeria, and he was a qualified architect in Nigeria, come here, and was told, "Oh, your qualification's not good enough. You've got to go to university." So, and he when he came here, couldn't use the NHS and claim benefits for 5 years till he became a nationalised. Of course, he meant he worked low-paid jobs. He became slave labour, in my opinion, which I think is a terrible thing to happen. And who knows the kind of effect that's had on his life. He's fitted in. He's that integration that you said about earlier into the British culture, and he loves it here. And that's the thing about people who've come here from around the world. And remember, it's migration. It's both ways. People move from here to other countries, and people come here. So I don't have any rules in my book about how many numbers each way. But I think John would be very interested in the debate. I think again, if we were having a referendum. Problem with the Brexit referendum was we don't do them very often, and only when they're forced. If you think about it, when the SNP got MPs elected, or MEPs, suddenly it became a big issue, and we had a referendum on Scotland. Then the Liberal Democrats got into government in 2010 in a coalition with the Conservatives, and we had a referendum about the electoral process. And of course, they weren't the kind of referendums that they actually wanted, because the Scottish one was just Scottish people in Scotland. I think if they'd opened it up to the whole UK, because it affects all of us, I think they'd have had a completely different, answer. And I can't remember what it was called now. The kind of proportional representation that was offered by the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, nobody understood how it worked. And I've looked into things and seen 17 different kinds of proportional representation. And to be honest with you, they don't work anywhere. The best place was actually in the EU, and that's why we had people like Nick Griffin from the BNP and UKIP people elected. Were given a platform where they could actually, express their opinions. Because first past the post in this country isn't fair. We've got a minority government of, a small percentage of people who voted in the elections, because most people didn't go and vote. That's what I'd like to see. All them people who didn't vote suddenly get involved again.
Can I just weigh in, Alan? Can I just weigh in, Alan? So when it comes down to it, I am pro direct democracy. I think power should be with the people. But also, I think there is a naivety towards a proportion representation system, because we have actually seen this across Europe, where populist parties, if you want to call it that, nationalist parties have actually got in. And because of the way the voting system is set up, the left can gang up on the party which should actually have the most representation, and they deny democracy. This is why, although I think first past the post system is difficult, I actually think first past the post, the way it actually works, is actually a good thing. I'm not saying it helps populist parties at all, but when you actually do get in government, what I think we're seeing, especially with reform, is a bit like when we had the Liberal Party, for example, right? I generally do believe we're in that time period where the Labour Party took over the Liberal Party's place in politics. Now, I think these things do happen. There is a shift, but at the end of the day, what we don't want in the UK is a load of wishy-washy left-wing parties to be able to stop reform putting policies across like direct democracy, because they're going to do it. That's my opinion on it. I think at the end of the day, the government should have the strength to carry out the will of the people. John?
I just wanted to weigh in. So we're not having enough kids. They're attacking the family. They're attacking our family unit. They're breaking our family. That's one of the major reasons. Forget everything else. That is one of the major reasons I think that we're not having enough kids. And they're breaking up our family. They don't care. They're making it expensive. for us. You know, like say, you get so much free time to have a kid in a creche now, but in the 60s and 70s, it was unlimited. So we had loads of kids. You know, it didn't cost us anything and stuff like that. The workplace as well, there was really accommodating to children. My mum worked in a sewing machine factory. And in the 80s, he had a creche in the factory run by professional taught people. There's none of that in some of our businesses now, not like these industrial businesses. And that's the biggest thing about us declining having children is the attack and the break.
Yeah, and that's because of the long march through the institutions. Yeah, the long march through the institutions. The left want to destroy Christianity because they want to destroy anything wholesome. I mean, just look at TV adverts. I don't watch television, but when I go around family members and everything, you just have to see the degenerate stuff what you see on the television, and we wonder why our kids are now so screwed up and everything. And
question, look,
yeah,
Dave 101.
Yeah, and what is it like being 4% of the population being ginger? Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. You know, technically I'm red, not white, but you know, it's one of those things. What do you call it? That kind of threw me off. What was I saying? Yeah, the thing is with you know what the left have done. They've gone through the education system. They've destroyed everything what was natural and holy because they wanted to bring this left-wing socialist utopia, and it goes back to what's been going on with the Grooming scandal. You know, they basically will cover up things what go against the utopian dream. Won't they? So this is how far they are going to go for their beliefs and everything. I didn't know if you guys wanted to talk about anything else. We're wrapping up to being on the live stream for an hour and everything.
A question for John.
Yeah.
The videos about Oldham, what do you see for the future of Oldham?
Future, you mean in Oldham?
Yeah.
There's going to be no future until the Pakistani community come forward and are accountable and will speak out on these issues, because they won't. Nowhere in the country have they ever come out and said, no, you know, you get the odd one, it's wrong, but that's not enough. That's not enough. If you listen to the news now, they're saying, why a whole family supporting the son who's a gang raper and all that, and lying about them and saying the word, you know, we're never going to get past until we can get past that. And, you know, maybe as a local councillor, I can talk to the other councillors. Now, I haven't made it a mission to make enemies of anyone in the council, me. I've talked to the chief executives, I've talked to other councillors, I've had meetings with them, with people who are from Oldham. I'm a reasonable person. I don't sit at the table like that. You know, I don't threaten anyone. I might do the odd video and call them out, but I want to talk to the councillors. But until we get that kind of communication with the Pakistani community in Oldham, nothing's going to change. And what people don't see as well on the underlying thing is that we've got two different sections of the Pakistani community. They're always at war in Oldham. They're always at war. No one will mention it, but they're always at war. And the council leader's car got firebombed by her own community from another part of Oldham. When a councillor spoke out against child abuse, a Pakistani councillor, he got a pig's head smashed through his window off his own community. But nobody will even mention that, Alan. No one will talk about it. No one will say anything until we can get past them kind of issues. We're not going to go nowhere, and that's in the older country as well.
Yeah. Would you like to go to the part?
Maybe I can get him down on a meeting, talk to him and say, look, you're going to have to do this, otherwise no one's going to trust you. It's going to be worse in Oldham, you know. But like I've got to say, a lot of the white people in Labour Party wouldn't even dare go down that route. You know, I mean, they wouldn't dare go down. They're too politically correct. You know, they won't go down that route. You know, we're going to have to upset minority communities every now and then. They're going to have to put up with it. You know what I mean? They're going to have to, and it's because of their lack of engaging with all the rest of it. So let me tell you this story. So before we finish, so my dad was Jamaican Windrush, and in the early 90s, my dad and other members of the community went to the council, the Liberal council, and said, look, you're putting everyone in the same place, you're creating ghettos, racial tensions are rising, you're not doing nothing about it. Then a few years later, we had the Oldham Bradford riots, which were blamed on the things that my dad and other people said. So our councils won't even deal with these issues. They won't even, they're too scared to. It was a Liberal, 99% white council in 2001. We had the riots because they wouldn't deal with any issues in minority communities. We don't need people like that running councils. We don't. That's me. That's my bit.
Okay, Alan, would you like to go to the part of the episode where you read some of the comments? What are questions, mate? Have you been keeping up with
Yeah, no, I've been watching them. They've been popping up actually on the thing.
Yeah.
So
What I would say to David is John needs a repatriation policy for ginger people to send them back to Scotland.
it could be offending. It could be offending ginger
Send
people.
them back to where my family is from.
The comments were just echoing the things that we'd said. As you guys talked about earlier, people are angry. The politicians are angry about the calls for national inquiry because it would mean people speak and give the names of victims and the names of perpetrators. It's a difficult one, but something I think we should mention that, you know, I think it's fair to say all three of us hate any kind of abuse of anybody. And, you know, if you are somebody watching this who is a victim of anything like this, there are help channels that you can go down. Please use them. Please talk to somebody. You know, you're not alone. I think that's an important thing with any of these kind of things. Let's see if we can't sort this out as a country. You know, small communities, and we can build it up and sort it out as a country, because it can't be a good thing to want anything like this for future generations. We need to learn what's happening now and sort it out, make sure it doesn't happen.
100%. 100%. Is there any more, Alan, to read from in the comments?
No, unless the comments stop, because that's all I can see. Did you see anything there?
Gordon Brown, Dave 101 mentions Gordon Brown, who sent a memo down to like not arrest people and not record ethnicity to senior chiefs
He
of
does
police.
deny that, but yeah, he does deny that, but yeah, I have heard that before.
Sorry, I can't see those messages. They must have.
No, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely fine, mate. Yeah, there's quite a few what come through because we're streaming on John's channel and also our channel tonight. So
that might be why I can't see them.
We have had like viewers,
Yeah,
we have actually got viewers and commenters on our channel. But yeah,
if everyone can like and subscribe to the different YouTube channels, everyone on mine, please subscribe to Marcus. Everyone on Marcus, subscribe to mine, if you can, please. But like, I just want us to go on what Alan said. If you're a victim or a survivor, you can talk to people. There's people who listen to you. There's professional people. I'm not one of them, but I can guide you to people who can support you and help you. If you want to go to your local council and you want someone to stand by you, I'll do that. I'll stand right next to you. And what you'll find is that you won't feel intimidated off the people who are talking to you, and you're better able to talk to them. I don't have to say anything. I can just escort you there and take you there. Honestly, there's so many of us out here, men and women, who go to these kind of things and support local people and anything to do with abuse, and we will support you one way or another, whether it's going to a meeting with you or me getting you on to someone who can better help you, like Maggie Oliver or Pag UK Billy in Rochdale, who has a team who can talk to girls and stuff like that. So, you know, don't be afraid. But I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult that a lot of people don't come forward. And I just want to run on one thing that we finish off. That it's been really difficult for the girls in Oldham because 2 years ago, the media were all over them. They had interviews off the police. And if you look at my Twitter, John they branded me a druggie and a prostitute, and I was only 13. That's what one girl said to me after she went to police crying her eyes out. And some of these girls don't want to be in this spotlight now because everyone's just clamoring over this to get a view or to get some notches and to get some views. And unlike me, who's been going on it for 10 years solid and Billy, we're not there for that. We just want people to be accountable and stuff like that. But there's always someone you can contact.
Fantastic. So we'll wrap this up. Thank you. We will be doing more episodes with John, me, and Alan, and we are going to be interviewing people from different political parties, and we're going to be interviewing possibly Ben Habib next time round. Let's see if we hear from him and what's going to be going on. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, if you want.